Okay, welcome back, and here is my Rhastakan's Rumble review for Mage. So, Mage, ultimately, it got the two kind of synergies in the Rumble. One is Elemental Synergy. It got three cards here that work really well if you have Elemental decks. So, you need a lot of Elementals to make them work, but ultimately, two of them I think are playable, and one of them is just complete garbage. What it really got, and this is what I'm super interested in, is it got three cards that work with the Mage Hero Power. And the Mage Hero Power is pretty good. So it's like arguably the best hero power in the game. So, and it buffs that, or it synergizes with that. And that's obviously a really, really, really good thing. So, like, I'm really excited to play with these cards. And then it has Blast Wave here, which is one of those cards. It's a bit of a feast or famine, but it's like there will be things with 1 health to justify this. And AoE is always good. So I'm high on this card. And Splitting Image, which I think it's the best Mage secret. It's still not good, but I think it's an okay secret. So anyways, I'll go over each card one by one. Elemental Evocation, card's garbage. There's not enough big elementals that you want to use to justify spending a card to save 2 mana. So I think bottom of the 7th bucket, don't pick it even if you have a elemental deck. Arcanosaur. If you played an elemental last turn, deal 3 damage to all other enemy minions. I really hate this card. I hate this card because for me, for an AoE, you do not want to play an AoE. If you play an AoE, it should be your last resort. Like, it should be something that you don't want to do. So with this, the AoE is obviously incredibly powerful. Like, we know from Duskbreaker how powerful that can be. But it requires you to play elementals, which means that you have to play something that you're not going to be able to bait it, because you have to play an elemental to get it off. And if you play an elemental, then you're sacrificing something. You're not able to bait it out. And it's that. And if you don't play an elemental, it's complete garbage. So I'm really, really torn on how to rate this card. I think ultimately I put this in the bottom of the 6th bucket. Over here in Mage. So just a lot of these cards don't belong here. But anyways, I would put it here because I think its power, it is so powerful that it like if it hits, it's obviously a first bucket card, even at 6 mana. But it's gonna hit so rarely that unless, like, I consider it similar to Blaze Caller. Like Blaze Caller here, 7 mana 6/6. If you're holding an element, if you play an elemental last turn, deal 5 damage. I think it's very similar in power to that. And because of that, I'm rating it the same as a Blaze Caller, and I think this might even be a little bit too high. Like, if it ends up in the top half or the bottom half of the 7th bucket, I wouldn't say that's a miss bucket. All right. And the third one here, Daring Fire Eater. Battle Cry. Your next hero power this turn deals 2 more damage. Basically, it's 3 mana, use your hero power, deal 3 damage, summon a 1/1. That by itself, I would say, is pretty good. So, like, the question is, how good is it? I mean, you have Frostbolt. Frostbolt is 2 mana, deal 3 damage, and freeze a minion, and the freeze matters. So you're paying 1 more mana, but you're getting a 1/1. So it can deal with most 3-drops, and the ones it can't deal with, like a 3/4, this could, the 1/1 can be used to finish off the trade. So I think ultimately it's a good card. I don't think it's really like that strong, but it does have also those synergies with other cards. So I would ultimately say it's probably around Frostbolt's level, which top of the 2nd bucket where it belongs. All right. Let's see here. Next card for the rares, Scorch. Deal 4 damage to minion, costs 1 if you played an elemental last turn. The problem is being able to have played an elemental the turn before. So if you didn't play an elemental the turn before, then it's just an average card. And if you did, it's an insane card. But it's kind of got the same problem with Arcanosaur, where if I have a removal, I don't want to be forced into playing my removal. Like, in comparison, Hunter has Wing Blast, which is this effect except if a minion dies. And I feel it's a lot more likely that a minion is going to die than it is that you will have an elemental in play the turn before, and then you will want to use this. But again, this is kind of feast or famine here, so I'm not really sure of the best place for it. I think it's good, but I think it's just a little bit too conditional for me. So for me, I would have it probably right here, top of the 5th bucket, which I know, real low. But like, I compare it to Bonfire Elemental. I would easily take a Bonfire Elemental over this because at the very least, Bonfire Elemental, a 5/5 for 5, is real good. 4 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion is not really that good. 1 mana, deal 4 to a minion is insane. Draw a card is a little more, but drawing a card is a little more reliable. And sometimes you just don't want to deal that 1 damage. But you always want to be able to draw a card. So I think a little bit lower than Bonfire Elemental here. Top of the 5th bucket would be okay for this card. Spirit of the Dragonhawk. Your hero power all targets adjacent minions means turns your hero power into an Arcane Explosion or a what's the 1 mana card? A Shooting Star. So that by itself is good. The fact that you'll probably get it off twice is good. The fact that it can be paired with this or this is really good. So I think that this is the difference. Like with Arcanosaur, you have to play it. You can't hold it. With Spirit of the Dragonhawk, you can hold this for 4 or 5 turns until it's that perfect turn where you can just blow up 3 things, and you won't feel all that bad about it. So for me, Spirit of the Dragonhawk, I feel it's not really a great card, but it's a very solid card. It's a good card. And I would put it here, top of the 3rd bucket, like Flame Geyser, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Shimmering Tempest, like all these cards, they're good cards. They're not really overpowered. They're just like solid cards. All right. And then, okay, so now we are on to, Pyromaniac here. Yeah. Pyromaniac. 3 mana, 3/4. Whenever hero power kills a minion, draw a card. Incredibly powerful snowball effect. Incredibly powerful effect. Like 3 mana, 3/4, draw a card, probably be like a 110 or a 120 or something along those lines. Like, it requires you to use your hero power, but your hero power kills things anyways. So obviously an insane card. The question is, how high can you go? Like, it's just simple. Is it better than Flame Strike, Fireball, Polymorph, or Meteor? All these cards have an immediate impact on the game and can win you games on their own. They don't like a 3 mana 3/4 is really strong, but it needs other factors to do well. And I think the immediacy impact of these factors means it's obviously not top bucket. So it's between here. It's between, is it better or worse than Primordial Glyph? Is it better or worse than Water Elemental? Is it better or worse than Frostbolt? And I think Primordial Glyph is similar to these cards, especially with the bankability impact. And I would say I would take a Primordial Glyph over a Pyromaniac. So ultimately, like, I think it's an insanely powerful card, but I can only go top of the 2nd bucket just because I think, like, bottom of the 1st or top of the 2nd, I would say top of the 2nd because I think like Water Elemental is about as good. Like, maybe not as snowbally, but still a real good card. So anyways, as I said, top of the 2nd bucket is where I would put the Pyromaniac. Epics, Splitting Image. So obvious thing, if you play this, then you play a taunt, you get a 2nd taunt. That's good. If you play this and you play a big minion, you get a 2nd big minion. That's good. It's kind of like a preemptive Molten Reflection, which your opponent gets to choose a little bit. So the one bad thing about this card is you can't really play this with small things on board, just because your opponent can trigger it on a small thing and it's pretty worthless. But where I really, really like this card is that for Mage, it is a card that the Mage player has control of the card. So you get to control what you put on your board. You get to control, like outside of things like any cards, like Leroy Jenkins puts like a couple 1/1s on the board. Outside of like real fringe scenarios like that, you get to determine what your board state is when you play this card. So this, unlike all your other secrets, where it's your opponent decides what you have, or your opponent decides what value your secret gets, you get to decide it. And that is where I really, really like this card. So I think like there's an upper limit to it because of how much setup there is. So like I think you'll be able to reliably get it off for 4, like play this on 3, then play a 4-drop on 4 and get a second delayed 4-drop for 3 mana. I think that'll be solid. I think like wrong thing. It'll be overall a good card, and I would ultimately put it here, bottom of the third bucket. I think these cards are a lot more reliable and a lot more consistent, and I would say it's definitely you see, there's no cards here. Like Unexpected Results doesn't belong here. Something like a Cold Wraith, Ghastly Conjurer, Book of Specters, they obviously need to go up. So I think here is like the perfect spot where I would put Splitting Image, which again would make it the best secret Mage has. Other one here, we have got Blast Wave. So Mage has minions that get spell damage +2. In this set, there is a Spell Zerker, which is a 2 mana 2/3, where you can just ping it and it gives you spell damage +2. They have the Cosmic Anomaly, the 2 mana 2/1 that everyone screws up and plays a coin afterwards. And they got the what is it? The 4 mana. It's around here. Not Cosmic Anomaly. Where is it? Maybe that is Cosmic Anomaly. Huh. All right. The 4 mana 4/3 with spell damage +2. Like I'm gonna look through here, and it'll hit me at some point here what it is. But anyways, they have those cards. So they have cards that give you spell damage. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's what it is. The 4 mana 4/3 is Cosmic Anomaly, and the 2 mana 2/1 is Celestial Emissary. So point being, they have those minions that give you spell damage, and they'll turn it into a dual-sided Flame Strike that'll draw you a bunch of cards. And that's going to happen. So obviously, this is a good card. So the problem is that number 1, you blow up your whole board. And number 2, you really need to hit like 2 things to justify the extra mana cost here. And number 3, I think people, they already play around the Mage ping as it is. So because of that, the opponent is not going to leave a bunch of things on 1 health where you can just very easily Blast Wave it and get a bunch of cards. They're going to be playing around Blast Wave, will be playing around Mage itself, and that will in turn be playing around Blast Wave. So I don't think it's going to be that easy to be like really powerful. As I said, there's like a huge gap here at 3-, and that's ultimately where I would put the card 3-. I think it's really powerful, but I'm not certain how often the situation is going to come up where this is going to be insanely good. All right. Legendaries here. Denial the Dragonhawk. Heavily deck dependent. So you have to use your hero power. If you don't have like any hero power buffs, you have to use your hero power 8 times. And that's like what, turn 13, 14, 15 before you can get the Ragnaros off. Like even if you use like 2 Daring Fire Eaters, like that's 6 damage from your hero power, and then you still have to hero power 2 more times to get this off by turn 7. So this is a super late game play to justify this. That is incredibly deck dependent. And yeah, Rag is insane, but I don't think this is going to go off. So ultimately, I think it's a bad card. I would put it over. I would say it's bad. I would put it in the top of the third bucket for legendaries. And I would say it's right around here. I would have it as a 30. Yeah, Hearth Arena wise. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna work in Arena, or that you're gonna get the deck to make it work in Arena. Finally, Hex Lord Malakras, 8 mana 5/5. Add a copy of your opening hand to the except this card to your hand. So let's draw 3 or 4 cards. So some people complain, or some people say that it's bad because it draws weak cards. I say, if you have an 8 mana card, I want to draw 1 card that's at least 2 mana, so I can play it on turn 10 with this. So I ultimately feel like that downside is not really that much of a downside, and it still draw a bunch of cards. So what it is, it's a heavy value card. Like it's an insane value card. It's a card you want to play in the late game. It's a card like 5/5 is good enough on 8 that it's like you're not going to be sad playing a 5/5 on 8 because 5/5s are just like great stats. So ultimately, I would say it's if you want to go, sorry, here, Hearth Arena, like it's probably around Antonitis, it's probably around Luna, it's probably around an 80, and that to me would be the bottom of the first bucket for legendaries. Okay, that's it for Mage. Next up will be the Paladin cards, one of which I say is the best card in the entire set. So see you soon.